Okay, so the first thing I want to let you know coming into this video is that I think that this gear set in its current state needs a rework. So if you're looking for some fresh new skill build that no one else is running, then I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this isn't the video. However, what I do have for you is a build that is going to be more of a help than a hindrance to you and your team in the DPS area. It relies less on the already long cooldown for something that the build heavily relies on, which is the turret. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Everyone I see making a video on this gear set keeps calling this Firecrest 2.0 when it is far from that. Just playing with the build for a few minutes and I can already tell that it doesn't hold up to the Firecrest of the Division 1. Like most of the gear sets in the Division 2, the devs have fallen short again. For instance, them leaving out the healing from the Striker build, or creating a chess piece called the Ridgeway's Pride that allows the bleed to heal you, but only within 15 meters. And if you can put healing on the Ridgeway's Pride chess piece, then why didn't you just add it to the Striker gear set? I say this because to look at the two gear sets initially, you would see a lot of similarities between the Ortiz gear set and the Firecrest gear set. And looking at the two turrets between the two builds and the two games, the cooldown is the same. But therein lies the big problem. And here's why. In the Division 1, the cooldown for the turret started the moment you deployed it. So the longer you could keep it up, the faster you could get it back. But some people might argue that you can pause the turret in the Division 2. But there's something I want to point out. You can't pause the turret. You can only slow it down. And I keep seeing in other people's videos that you can pause the turret. You can't. They're wrong. It slows down, but you can't pause it. The duration continues to count down, but it never stops. So anybody that tells you that you can control the turret's duration, you really can't. You can only slow it down. And yes, that is a big help so that you don't waste the uptime. However, that does not help the long cooldown or the fact that if you have a good DPS team and they are able to clear the room fast, then you are still stuck with the lengthy cooldown of the turret. And if you're backed into a corner with the NPCs pushing you, then you have no way of defending yourself. At least with the original Firecrest, you had fire bullets, a small chance that you would activate the fire bullets, but at least you had a fallback. With the Ortiz gear set, you're forced to run something like the Iron Lung if you want fire bullets. You could use the Scorpio shotgun, which is obviously a better choice because it inflicts status effect right away on the first bullet. But what if you're a new player and you don't have either of those options? Anyways, I'm just pointing out it's not at all close to the Firecrest of the Division 1. So how would I play this gear set? Well, I'd play it the same way I played the Firecrest gear set in the Division 1 and turned what was meant to be a skill build into a not so bad DPS build. For the specialization, I went with the Survivalist for the 10% protection from elites, the 10% skill haste while in cover, and all group members gain 10% bonus damage to targets with status effect, as well as the incendiary grenades that you receive from the specialization. So like I said earlier, I'm going with the Scorpio shotgun for its fast status effect, so that if I get pushed by a dog or a heavy, I can stop them right away with the shock status effect. For my secondary weapon, I went with the White Death. A quick fact about the White Death: the White Death was named after a real person that did not aim for the head, something else the devs got wrong, and they stuck headshot damage on this sniper rifle, which is something that I wouldn't have done. The man this gun is named after is Simon Herha. He was a Finnish military sniper in World War II. Herha did not use a scope on his rifle. He used an old iron sight. Perha also went against sniper etiquette of aiming for the head. He always aimed for the center mass of his target. So they actually should have given this sniper rifle something like damage to targets out of cover, rather than headshot damage. But as you can see from the build, even if you can't make the headshots and you have to make body shots, you're going to be doing enough damage. For the talent on the rifle, I went with Ranger, which amplifies weapon damage by 2% for every 5 meters you are away from the target. The White Death comes with marksman rifle damage and headshot damage for its special bonus, and I have damage to targets out of cover for the attribute. The backpack is the reason I went with the shotgun sniper combo. I'm running the setup backpack with the perfect opportunistic talent. I chose to go with this talent rather than the backpack talent from the Ortiz gear set because it offers both myself and my team a damage buff rather than just me. The Ortiz talent would add too small a buff to a full out skill player, as it would be better to take the armor rather than the weapon damage bonus for your core attribute, because taking the armor will add to your survivability. This is one way, a small way, that the gear set falls short. The setup is going to give us 5% armor, and for the core attribute, I have armor with critical hit chance and critical hit damage, as well as a protection from elites mod. The perfect opportunistic talent gives us 15% more damage from all sources when using a shotgun or marksman rifle. The second place this gear set falls short of the Firecrest is with the chest piece bonus talent. The bonus talent is laughable at how useless it is. But let's go over the gear set before we get into the chest piece talent. The 2-piece gives us 20% increased burn duration and 15% skill health. The 3-piece gives us 40% burn damage. And the 4-piece turns our turret into a 360-degree turret that you can turn on or off at any time. You are also immune to the flames from this turret. Now for the chest piece. So the chest piece talent is called Chain Combustion. Enemies set on fire from the turret ignites other enemies within 2 meters. Okay. To put this in perspective, let me show you the radius of the turret and then tell you in a way that everyone, I think, can understand how far 2 meters is. 2 meters is the length of 2 shopping carts you can get from any store. If an NPC is on fire from the flames of your turret, I'm 99% sure the NPC that is 2 meters away is going to be on fire from the flames of the turret as well, without the talent even being used, making this a wasted talent. So in the place of the Ortiz chest piece, I'm running the 0Fs, which gives us 10% shotgun damage. For the core attribute, I have armor with critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and another protection from elites mod. The talent on the 0Fs is perfectly unbreakable. When your armor is depleted, it repairs 100% of your armor with a 55-second cooldown. 55 seconds. Think about it. This cooldown is so that you don't take advantage of the talent. That long cooldown is a way to make sure that you don't rely on the talent to keep you alive. But it is there just in case. And yet the turret, which the gear set is centered around, that you rely on because you're a skill player, prevents you from relying on it because of the lengthy cooldown. This goes against the gear set even being useful. For instance, you don't have to rely on Unbreakable because you have a Reviver Hive. So there needs to be something that prevents you from relying on it, which is the long cooldown for the Unbreakable talent. The Unbreakable talent is there to complement the build, not be centered around it. However, the turret was made to be centered around the Ortiz build. So not being able to get it back right away can get you killed. Anyways, let's get into the gear set pieces. The mask is going to have weapon damage, skill damage, and a protection from elites mod. For the holster, I have weapon damage and critical hit damage. For the gloves, I also have weapon damage and critical hit damage. And for the knee pads, I have weapon damage and skill damage. So taking into account the long cooldown of the turret, I am using the turret like the unbreakable talent and not relying on it. I'm relying more on my weapons than the turret and saving my turret for those big rooms or areas where I'm feeling overwhelmed. One more thing I forgot to mention is that some of the heavies, as well as the dogs, are immune to the status effect from the flame turrets. So it doesn't stun lock them, which means that they can still take down the turret, or they can run right past the turret to get to you. And as a skill player, that would be resulting in you going down or dying. So this is how I would play the build, rather than play it as a skill player. Everything is wrong with this build as a skill build, in my opinion. And a bit of that carries over from the Firecrest of the Division 1. My Firecrest build in the Division 1 was also a DPS build, rather than a skill build. It just made more sense to build it that way. Because for the most part, I was a solo player, and still am. So the builds I make have the solo player in mind. Now I know it's been a long time since I've made a video. I've had 3 kids since then, so I hope to be putting out more videos again. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.